Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So, before we dive into today's episode, which is really just wrapping up season 4 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, talking about reunion part 3, but because part 3 was kind of flat, in my opinion, I want to touch upon reunion part 3, but also talk about the rumored the newbies coming onto the show, Monica, Tanisha, Heather, other stuff going on. So we're really going to get into it. But before we do that, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. And be sure to drop your questions in your comments where you're listening from in the chat box. So with that, let's go. So first up, this is a deep dive from Variety, and it breaks down part 3 of the reunion, and then also it adds in other burning questions. And I want to go through it because it also brings in production. I think that for the Real Housewives, this is kind of one of not the first, because I think it really happened with Scandival and some of the other franchises where production is a really big key character and player, where everyone is like, what did production know? What did they not know? How were they involved? How were they not involved? So I think that's what's really interesting about this, is that production is kind of its own character. So let's dive right on in. If I'm looking up this way, I'm just reading the article. Okay. So this is according to Variety. It says Monica Garcia will not be returning for season 5 of Bravo's The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City after she was unmasked in the January 2nd season finale as an abusive troll who had anonymously attacked the members of the cast since 2021. Monica's castmate Heather Gay, who's been on the show since the beginning, had received the receipts, proof, timeline, screenshots of Garcia's deception on the final day of filming of the show's 4th season during a trip to Bermuda. In an exclusive interview for Variety's Making a Scene, Heather says when she got the confirmation that Garcia was behind the burner Instagram account, Reality Von Tease, she wasn't even sure she'd even be allowed to bring it up on camera. Social media has never been a part of the storyline, Heather says. I didn't even know if production was going to listen to me. Well, Heather, that's not true. Social media has been a big part of the storylines. Don't forget that there was the whole storyline about whether or not Jen Shah was doing these sort of, troll social media accounts going against Meredith's son, Brooks. And she said she had her whole like cybersecurity. So social media was a part of the storyline there. And then also don't forget Angie Harrington and her husband created the fake account Shaw's Exposed, outing Jen Shah and Lisa Barlow. So social media has been a big part of the storyline. So I'm not sure what she meant by that. I don't know, but we've had accounts of trolls, burner accounts, and people using social media to attack each other before as big storylines. Okay. They were wise to, as it turned out, because Heather's exposing Monica during the women's final dinner led to an epic finale, one that immediately became a classic Real Housewives episode. Garcia's actions as the troll, Reality Von Tease, caused the show's entire full-time cast to unite against her, and her presentation during the 3-part reunion, the last of which premiered on January 23rd, didn't score her any points, as she went from attack mode to, by the end, seeming defeated. The result of all these factors has led to her ouster from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, the show's producers confirm. Now, this is the thing, to me, I would agree with that assessment. I think when it came to the reunion, Monica came in hot. She came in guns blazing. She came in swinging. There was no contrition. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't even embarrassed. She was just going at it. Where by the time it got to the end, she was just beaten down. And I think, again, the biggest reason why that is what Heather Gay said. Nothing unites people more than a common enemy. And I think the fact that all of the women were united against her, she didn't really stand a chance. And of course, she didn't win any, points because she didn't have any type of accountability or resolve around what happened. What I love about reunions is it's like the Housewives Court of Law, says Andy Cohen, the executive producer of the Real Housewives franchise, who also hosted the reunion. I think if Monica had come out and was able to sway even one of the women back on her side, it might be a different conversation right now. I agree with that. That's why I think the united front is what got her out. Lori Gordon, the series showrunner, says the whole franchise is based on friends and the people who know each other and circulate in the same circles. And at the same time, the women just need a cooling off period. And I think it's too soon. They've articulated it. It's too soon for them to re-enter into a friendship, a trusting friendship. Not enough time has passed. I agree. I would not want to be around this woman ever again. I don't think she will ever be back. I think this is just Bravo covering themselves. Oh, don't say ever, never. This is a pause, a cooling off period. I don't think they'll ever bring her back. I think that Monica will be on Traders. I think she'll be on Bad Girls Clubs. I think she'll maybe do some shows like that, but I don't think that they will ever bring Monica back to the Real Housewives. One, because of what she did, but two, because she lied on production. She got up there part 3 and said that production knew. She made the claim that she told in her first casting interview that she was Virality Von Tease, this, Instagram troll account, burner account. Andy Cohen was quick to deny that. All of the producers, and I mean all of them, we're talking about executives from NBC Universal, executives from Bravo, executives from Shed Media. Shed Media is the people who actually produces Boots on the Ground, the show. They've all come out and said, we did not know. So then for her to get on the show and lie on production, I think that was the real nail in the coffin. Because, whether the women want to film with her or not, there's workarounds with that, but the fact that she got up there and lied on production, they were like, no, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Season 5 will begin production on February 5th, according to Heather, and though Garcia helped the show's 4th season enter the pantheon of Real Housewives seasons, and her duplicitous actions provided the season with its arc, Lisa Shannon, who is the Senior Vice President of Programming and Development at Shed Media and also an executive producer, echoes Gordon. We're starting to film relatively soon. I think everyone needs a minute, says Shannon. If Garcia plays her cards right, though, she might be able to find her way back on the show. Who knows? Andy Cohen asked rhetorically. Anything can happen, and I love a comeback, and it would be very cool to find a path forward to her. Yeah, right. They always say that about the housewives that they fire. Like, please. But Lisa and Lori are right. It feels way too raw right now. Basically, Monica, you shot yourself in the foot when you tried to throw production under the bus and you lied on those people. They were like, not today, Satan. Heather is relieved by the decision and is resolute. Monica has no connection with any of us right now, she says. There's no chance that she will be in my home, in my business, or around me anytime soon. During the reunion, Heather and Lisa Barlow asked Andy Cohen whether Bravo and the producers knew that Heather was Reality Von Tease, or to quote Barlow, you guys brought her on with knowing she wanted to effing take every single one of us out and no one gives a F. As Monica proclaims, she told production the first time they came to her house during casting. Andy Cohen scoffs at the idea. If you said you're on a burner account, he tells her, we wouldn't have cast you. Andy, the thing with Andy Cohen is he's clearly like listening to someone who's in his ear, like literally in his little earpiece, who's telling him what to say. The problem with that is like we all know Andy Cohen really isn't hands-on anymore, even with casting. That's why we have shows that he does the reunion for and that he is the executive producer on, but he's never even met the talent. On Watch What Happens Live, the show Martha's Vineyard, there was some of the cast people on there who was meeting Andy Cohen for the first time in the clubhouse, which is fine. Executive producers, they're not boots on the ground. They're not doing casting. But it's kind of funny for Andy to be like, we would have never cast you. It's like, boy, come on now. But anyway, I'm actually with Andy on all of this for the most part. I don't want to shade him too much, Anyway. Shannon says no one behind the scenes knew that Monica had been posting as Reality Von Tease, and the idea of it violates production's bond with the cast. I believe production. I don't think they knew. You have to have the trust of your cast, Shannon says, and we would never jeopardize the trust of the cast, nor would the network, nor would Andy, especially over something so seemingly silly. And not knowing that it's going to pay off, we just would never do that, especially with the entire cast. You're really blowing up your relationship with everybody. Well, this is the thing. I think that they're saying it's because of the trust of the cast. The reason why I think they didn't know isn't because they want to keep the trust. I think they didn't know because they didn't do their due diligence in the casting process. Do you know what I mean? They didn't do enough of a background check. They didn't do enough of crossing their T's and dotting their I's. If they would have just checked the restraining orders and the cease and desist that Jen Shah's lawyers had sent them, they would have seen, oh, Monica Fowler, is that the same Monica Fowler assistant? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it's that production was so worried about the trust of the cast. I think production just was sloppy in their weeding out of people and doing the casting process. But now, looking back, they're like, oh, we would never lose the trust of the cast. Well, you lost the trust of the cast because you didn't do your due diligence in casting. You know, if you're going to put people together in what could be very volatile situations, there's lots of alcohol, there's a lot of egos going on. You know, if you're going to put people in these very volatile situations that can be volatile and violent, you need to do a better job at vetting these people. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I stand with that one. Okay. Now, Shannon says that if they'd found out about reality Von Tease during filming, or even if Monica had come to them and confessed, they would have helped her to craft a way to help her tell them so she wasn't so busted and left without any excuses or explanations. Had we known, we probably would have encouraged her much earlier on to have a come to Jesus with the ladies, Shannon says. I believe that. I do think that if they had known and they still wanted her on the show, I think that production would have been the one to orchestrate how it came out rather than Heather Gay doing it with production, right? So in her interview, Heather tells Variety the story of what happened after she got off the phone with the person who confirmed to her that Monica was Reality Von Tease. After getting through her hesitation about bringing it up on camera, she told Gordon that she wanted to speak with Lisa, Meredith, and Whitney and the other original Salt Lake City cast members who had been targeted by the account. I can't tell you how bonding it was for us just to have that moment together as friends, Heather says. This has not happened in 4 years of me being friends with Lisa, for her without hesitation to say, we have your back. Andy loves the beach scene, the imagery of which has drawn the season 1 finale of Big Little Lies. When you see the 4 of them on the beach, and she says, the 4 of us have been through a lot, Cohen says. I think in that moment you see a level of sisterhood. That's kind of a sisterhood that I love seeing on the Housewives. I love when they find common ground. I do too. And like Heather said at the reunion, you know, nothing brings people together more than a common enemy. And that common enemy is Monica. Knowing that she had her fellow castmates behind her, Heather says she began to plan what she would say at the dinner. Once I knew that I was going to be able to confront Monica at dinner, there wasn't a minute that I was getting ready that I wasn't rehearsing in my mind. What am I going to say? How am I going to say this? What am I upset about? Clearly, Heather was able to articulate what she was upset about, creating a moment that Real Housewives fans will never forget. She's extremely eloquent, Heather, and I thought that her entire speech was epic, honestly, Gordon says. So there is all of that. So when it comes to that, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. What do you think about, you know, Monica claiming in the reunion part 3 that production knew? And then production coming out and saying, no, we didn't. What do you think about Monica already being fired? And what do you think about Heather and all of the women coming together and banding against her? Now, when it comes to part 3 of the reunion, I feel like we already knew everything that was coming. I love that they had more footage of her stalking. I love that the women were united. I feel like Monica was defeated. And the burn book, that was a complete flop. The burn book was a huge nothing burger. And I hate when people come to the reunions with these types of receipts that are like non-receipts. Like, what was the point of the burn book? Just to be silly? It was ridiculous. So put it down below. Let me know what you guys think about the part 3 reunion, the burn book, Monica being fired, and all of that. So with that, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share. So with that, let's move on to our next story, which is